Hi guys, so for this week's lesson I'm going to demonstrate an effective use of a compressor in a musical context. So I have 3 tracks here. The first one we'll ignore for the moment, I've got that muted, but we'll be using that later. The other 2 are a drum and an organ track. So let's listen to those together. I'd like the drums to be a bit fuller and cut through more. If we look at the audio from the drums, we can see that the transients vary considerably. The kick is much louder than the hi-hat, for example. So to make the drums have a tighter feel and more of an average volume overall, I'm going to use a compressor. I'll quickly explain the main components and what they do. So the threshold is the level at which the compressor starts to function. The compressor ratio is basically the amount of compression once the signal has crossed the threshold. So for example, a ratio of 2:1 will equal half the input above the threshold. Next is attack, and that is how fast the compressor brings down the volume once the threshold is exceeded. The release will set how long it takes the compressor to come back up from reducing the signal once the sound has reduced below that threshold. Gain reduction shows us the amount of gain reduction being applied to the incoming audio signal. The output sets the amount of gain applied to the signal after compression, and the makeup gain automatically compensates the output level as the threshold and ratio value change. I'll keep this off for the moment because I want to manually set the output gain. I'll play the drums again and I'll start to compress the audio. I'll drag the threshold down, and we can see once the incoming signal goes above that threshold, the gain reduction meter gives us visual feedback of the compression. And if we click on Activity View, we can see how the compressor is working over time. We can now adjust our attack. You'll see if I have the attack all the way up to max, the compressor essentially isn't doing anything, and you can see that visually the line becomes flat as it is not responding to those transients. So I'll pull it back up, somewhere around 5 milliseconds, and we can see that the compressor is functioning when the transients come in. We can now adjust our release. If we put the release to max, it takes the compressor too long to come back up after the sound has reduced below the threshold, so it's not punching through. So I'll pull that back down, somewhere around 10 milliseconds. At the moment, the compressor doesn't sound like it's really doing anything, so I have to adjust the output gain to hear how the compressor is functioning. We can now compare before and after. I'll play it with the organ so you can hear the difference. Now that we have a nice amount of compression on the drums, I'll move on to the organ. Now with the organ, I'm going to demonstrate sidechain compression. We'll drag and drop a compressor onto that organ track. And what I'll do is I'll click on the sidechain toggle. This will open up the sidechain parameters. Now I mentioned this track earlier called kick sidechain. And what we're going to do is route that kick to the organ compressor. So I'll toggle the external sidechain on, and in the drop-down menu, select our conveniently named sidechain kick. The muted sidechain kick is just a 4-bar loop with the kick coming in at the start of every bar. Now when I play that organ with the kick, you can see that the compressor is receiving the input from the kick. Now for this demonstration, I'm going to turn up the ratio really high and drag the threshold all the way down, and you'll hear what the compressor starts to do. Now every time that kick goes above the threshold that we have set, the audio of the organ reduces momentarily. Now this doesn't sound very nice, but if we start to increase the attack and release time, you'll notice the organ starts to develop a pumping or breathing motion. This effect is really popular in dance music. So first with release, this gradual release is much nicer. And now for the attack. That sounds pretty good to me. Now, this sidechain compression is also great for instruments with competing frequencies. So for example, the kick and organ cover a lot of low frequency range. And by sidechaining the organ, you are letting the kick cut through more in the mix. So let's now listen to it with and without the compressor on. So thanks for watching my video, guys. I hope it was useful, and feedback is always welcomed. So good luck for the rest of the course, and thanks again.